Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out.
I am Marlisha. I am from Marlisha's Meanderings, and I'm also known as Marlisha Muses.
And I know you were discussing whether or not you would be combining. Remember we had a conversation on the way to church?
Not exactly.
Where you talk about maybe making it the same name, like for your handle and your...
Oh, yeah. I wanted to throw that out there, and I hope to remember to throw it. This is going to be a podcast that's going to be divided between our two podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to throw it out here for this one. My name is, my handle, if you will, is Marlisha Muses. My channel is Marlisha's Meanderings. And I'd like to know what you think about me just being Marlisha's Meanderings across the board.
I think it would simplify things.
So if you could comment in the comments below the podcast or in my half of the video, below the video there, whether you think it would be confusing or you think it'd be a good time, since I'm a new podcast, to just go completely with Marlisha's Meanderings, let me know. And I would drop Marlisha Muses, or do you think I should stay the way I am? And that's...
Because when I started with Talia Nerds Out, at first my handle did not match Talia Nerds Out. I think it was just Talia. And then I changed it later.
Right. Yeah, so if you could let me know, Oh,
I think it might have been Talia Reads and Knits.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Originally. And then I decided I wanted it to match. Because initially it didn't match.
Right. So this is what I'm thinking about. And she had to remind me because I, in one ear and out the other or whatever. But
it was in your own head.
I know it. But I told it to you, so out it went.
Well, that's not out your ear. That's in your head, out your mouth.
I don't care. I have a headache. Don't bother me.
Drink your tea.
Like
she gets caffeine headaches. We're not sure if it's that, but she does get you definitely get caffeine headaches. And not because it causes caffeine, the lack thereof. So, I do have other hoodies. I just happened to be wearing the same hoodie I was wearing last time that we recorded together.
Yep.
I didn't realize it until... And the thing is, it's a zipper one. If I wanted to, I could go and just change it out. I don't feel like it.
And this is a very long way to say that we're doing a collaborative
book review for indie authors, which is... a specific indie author.
Yeah, but it's for the indie authors in August. That is Kevin Toll Reads, brainchild. So...
I was about to say his baby.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, but I wasn't sure he'd appreciate that. So,
can I... Oh, wait, no, this is an old tea. I don't need it.
So, so this is a collaborative review on an indie author who is actually a booktuber.
I've actually been aware of her for quite a few years. I discovered her because she does videos on stage fighting.
Yeah, choreographed fights and things like that.
And she'll go through movies and go through the characterizations and with the fighting, and then how well an actor sells or doesn't sell the fight. That kind of thing.
And if the fight was realistic or not.
Right.
And how if it moved the story along.
Right. And so she'll talk about, like, okay, this might be more realistic, but did this, even if this part wasn't realistic, did this, help move the plot enough in a way?
And I did link her podcast in my last video, my last review on big books and reviews. I think I forgot what I called it, Big Book Summer and Reviews or something like that. I linked her there, and I will link her on my half of this video.
And she'll be linked here as well.
So,
but her name is Jill Barup.
Yeah, Jill Barup.
And this book apparently came as a result, because I would watch her, but I also kind of went on hiatus for a little bit, or I only watched certain videos, because there was a period of time where I wasn't watching as much as... You know how you'll watch things and then you'll kind of fall out and you start watching the same people again? It was kind of like that. But I missed her videos where she was accidentally putting this together.
I think I told you about it.
Well, I heard about it before you told me about it. But I just, at that point, I was already looking into getting the book.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it for sure. Honestly, the reason I had this book, it was because of time, but it's because Kevin. He said he was doing indie authors, and we had already decided to buy it.
Yeah, I actually already purchased it.
He pushed me over to want to start it right away.
Yeah, because I think, although we had already talked about starting in August.
But we weren't, we had.
But we were like, oh, we hope he does it in August.
We were soft, because we're like, we hope he starts in August because we had other things coming in September.
Yeah, so, but, yeah, I picked this up I think she mentioned it again in one of her videos. So I went and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it says it's clean. This is great.
Mm-hmm. And it is clean.
It is.
And it is available in hardcover now.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's...
Well, pre-order for hardcover.
I first looked through by reading part in Libby, and I was like, oh, Mom's going to enjoy this. Returned it on Libby, got us both a copy, and I said, we're reading this together. Well, not like we do, or we read it aloud together, but we decided to read it at our own paces, and then to do a review together. So we're not really sure how this is going to go, because we've never done. This is more like a discussion than a review. Yeah. We plan on doing something similar with some of the stuff with the Jane Austen stuff that we're reading together, because I'd like to share that process of the discussion, especially since these are books I was waiting for her to read for so long. And we're kind of starting off this idea with this book.
It's a good one to start off, because this book does something that we do all the time. Mm-hmm. Maybe not to the exact same extent. It's a little different in some of the ways, but it blends characters, an author, and people in her life. But it's funny because the author of the story is not the writer of the book. Because if you look at this,
yeah,
it says Jill Burrup, and then it says, Who is this? Where's my name? Because
the character
who writes it is not Jill.
Yeah, her name is Caroline.
It's Caroline.
And yeah, so it's fun. It's got this. You've got an author writing the author of the book, writing characters, and it's
got layers.
It's got layers, and it's fun in that way. I did enjoy the fact that you would see the parallels. What I'd say doesn't usually happen in a lot of authors' lives. This was happening in the character author's life and her character's life, but not so one-to-one that you would feel like it was.
No, it's almost therapeutic if you think about it, or a way of working through it.
Well, I know that depending on the kind of author you are, I find that I will later on look back and be like, oh, aspects of this, but not like, oh, I can point to this person specifically, but aspects of different things that I read, I can see who influenced, but without me going one-to-one. And it's usually I pulled from here, I pulled from there, and it was a little bit more like the Caroline character had a bit more of the one-to-one, but what's interesting is it made sense for the character, because Caroline, as a character, her start was supposed to be essentially a fan fiction. And then she kind of like spun off of that. So for it to be a little bit more one-to-one made sense for an author who was used to writing characters that were not her own, if that makes sense.
Well, she was able to step into the shoes of somebody else's writing. I mean, I hesitate to do that even with Talia's characters, and I know those characters intimately, but it's just something that most authors don't like to do to other authors.
No.
And most authors don't like other people to do for their characters.
I won't read, for the most part, books that are written by other authors about other authors' characters, which is really funny because I've read fan fiction. But I think also I expect lower quality with fan fiction.
You don't read it with an open mind. Every once in a while you can be surprised. I don't tend to like people writing the character itself. I don't mind them writing the ancillary characters.
Although, okay, I think I've noticed what I tend to read in fan fiction, it makes sense that I wouldn't have as much of a problem. What do I read? Comics? I tend to read...
You don't read books. You read... That is a reference.
It is a reference.
Yes.
Comic books. Treasure Island.
Never-ending Story was a reference.
Yes. But fan fiction based off of comics, off of TV shows like Stargate SG-1, things like that, where, what do you have? Multiple authors traditionally involved in the writing of it.
And that's easier to take than someone who...
writes Jane Austen.
Yeah, if you have someone who has made... I don't like other people writing Poirot. They don't get Poirot right. They don't get Sherlock Holmes right. It's just difficult. I don't mind them going down the pike and saying this is his niece from Mycroft or whatever. Mycroft didn't have any family, but my point is that I don't mind them doing something like that as
I
much.
do if it feels too
Contrived.
contrived.
Well, I don't like
And a lot of times I find that when suddenly you have a random female character shoved in, it's to quote Critical Drinker, the message.
Yes. Well, and I also don't like it when they try to modernize something too much. Some of the stuff is meant to be period, and I don't like it when it's changed. Little Women's a classic example of that.
Well, and also sometimes it's not even changed on purpose.
Yeah, I know.
To be fair, now the Little Woman was not an example of that, but
No.
I will sometimes read something and you can tell someone just isn't steeped in the period, and that's something that can't necessarily be helped unless you are a historian or whatever,
Or you live through it.
or you have to have a really good ear for tone of the consistency of the world. And if you aren't that steeped in the world, and that's why I think probably people who are a bit obsessive tend to do best for that kind of thing. And I know I'm a bit obsessive.
I am too.
So that's why I would get compliments for, that I could hear Teal'c's voice narrating this when you wrote that.
I have had those kind of comments as well.
And so, anyway, that was a side tangent.
Yes, and we are known to do this. And you might want to be prepared for that because we know this is going to be divided into two pieces.
Right.
And,
at least two pieces.
And we are totally unscripted for the most part. And this is just
and this is a format we've done with our knitting channel for, are we 15 years now?
No, 13, I think.
Are you sure it's only 13?
It's not 15. 15 would put us at 2005. And you didn't start it yet.
No, I started it
No, actually,
2005 is 20 years ago.
It would be 2010. That would be touch and go.
We might be 15 years, Mom.
It might be.
That's crazy. We should check that, because if we're hitting 15 years, we should do something on there. Because 15 years is a big milestone.
It is.
Although 20 years is bigger.
Yeah,
if we hit 20 years.
Well, 20 years, we'll have to think about that when we run. We've been around for a long time. We're old people.
So, I'm sorry.
Just stab me now. Okay, Jill Burrup. Now this, like I said, but this is an interesting concept. You have reality, you have her reality, and then you have the fantasy or the fiction, whatever.
And actually, getting into, you see some of the stuff with the research and stuff where she'll go like, it is period, or she'll be like, it's my world. And that's where your consistency comes in within world, as long as you're consistent within world.
And I can tell you for a fact that we just had that conversation. We were writing something for the shared story, and I was the one who finally said, it's my world, and this is the way, I thought of this, so it's got to be what I say. Now, we did work it out amicably. I thought we could have World War III, but
we haven't had an intense argument about writing like that in a while.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Well, I tend to think a lot more like, does this work logically? Why would this happen?
And I put a lot more in, you don't have to know everything. It's a very Christian-based story that we're writing. I'm like, you have to leave some of it in the mind of the guardians or the creator. And so it's like for a little bit. But we managed to work around it.
Yes, it was
interesting.
Exciting for a while. But the point
no outtakes.
Anywho,
she does it with a character who is her editor.
Well, okay, so she has her editor character now. Her editor is her editor of her. Okay, we're gonna give names because it'll be a lot easier.
Before you do, we wanted to tell you we're not going to give
spoilers.
We're not going to give away plot points.
Yeah,
there are potential spoilers. So if you
at least character development type spoilers.
Yeah, there could be spoilers unintentionally.
So I might have to even
put a big
the picture on the video, and maybe I'll have to make one for you too. That'll just say, just stab me now. potential spoilers.
Yes.
Because
mine should say part 2.
Yeah, because this is a review, but it's more of a discussion. I think that's going to be more fair, because that's what we're planning on doing for Mansfield Park when we finish. You might see a few of these just because it can be fun to have a discussion. Now, this is a bit different because this is a book that maybe many of you haven't read. I do recommend going to read it.
I highly recommend this
You weren't sure if you would keep it initially.
I was not sure that I was going to read it. The idea is right up my alley. I started it, and to be quite frank, I wasn't sure I was going to like it. And it took me about a chapter or 2 to get really invested in it, and things started picking up. And when I met certain characters, I was done. I mean, I was hook, line, and sinker. We have, in the real world, we have 2 characters. Well, we have...
Okay, so we have Henry,
who is her editor.
And we have Caroline, who is...
the actual author.
The author, who is supposedly running things, but isn't. And
we have ancillary characters out there. We have who kind of push the plot along. We have George, and we have a couple of other characters who are in that real world within this world.
But the most important ones in the real world are Caroline and Henry.
And then
Caroline crosses over to...
Yes, she does. We'll get to that other one later. But in the next level...
Because you have 2 stories kind of paralleling each other, although your main...
We actually have 3 stories kind of going on. We have the author, the author Caroline, and then we go in and we have
Rosamond's?
Maybe we do just have 2. In my mind, there's another author, but I guess it's the author that actually writes the book.
Yeah, no, you just have the 2 main storylines.
You have
real world, fantasy world.
You have Caroline and her group, and then you go into Rosamond's, and
that's your main story.
It is the main story, and she is the main character. Rosamond, there's Hugo, who is mentioned only basically in what's it called?
Past tense,
backstory.
Yeah.
And there's Leo and Robin. Robin's a male.
So you have...
the king and the queen.
Yes. You 2 queens. Each.
We have...
Queen in one kingdom, a king and a queen in the other kingdom.
But one only has one, right? I mean, one only has...
We don't hear of any king in the...
And then you have the bad guy.
Yeah. But... So you have these characters, and it sounds like a lot, but it really is handled well. And you have them pulled in slowly when it makes sense for the plot. You're mostly following Rosamond, who is your main character, and initially the main one Caroline talks to.
She's too old.
But you can see the influence of Jill's own interests on this, because I remember videos where she talked about figuring out how to hide weaponry in a dress.
Right. And she's interested in fencing, and she's interested in, I was concerned.
She actually didn't go as much into it as I thought she would.
No, I was concerned when I first started this. I was just telling Talia before we started that it was going to be one of these girl power, heavy-handed. I have no problem with strong women. I do have a problem when they're forced.
Yeah.
And I was afraid this was going to be one of those. It's not. It's not. Everybody is treated with dignity and respect. Everybody it's believable. It's not like, okay, why is that woman there, or why is that man doing that? No, it's very much in character, in line with the plot, and it's not like a thing where they just dropped them all there because they wanted to make a statement.
And there was consistency within the world that came. Their version of religion is now it's possibly got some basis on Anglican.
We're wondering if it's based on Church of England.
Yeah,
because I think she's from Britain.
She is from Britain.
And that may be, but in any event, whatever it's based on, or whatever it's made up to be based on, it's consistent.
Right, which is the most important thing. Now, what's fun about this is it's one of those things where if you're familiar, it's great for people who are either familiar with the reading or familiar with the writing, because they'll talk about the tropes. Like, okay, well, I'm trying for the enemies to lovers trope. Well, that didn't work. I'm trying for a love triangle.
That's not good. Well,
Well,
maybe
what's going on here?
Um,
The characters have their own ideas of what's going on. My characters are more focused on the plot. Oh my gosh, than on what I have planned for them.
It's really, and for people who write, for us, it was funny because it's like, yes, our characters do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are headstrong and they want to go their own way and they don't want to be reined in. And it, to anyone who doesn't write, it sounds like you're crazy, but it's not. I mean, it's just.
And I've had points actually just recently. Part of why I've been so inactive is I finished up the shared story. I'm actually recovering from a week of us going through and reading through it and outlining.
So I can keep moving forward.
And fighting.
Mm-hmm. Fighting. Arguing, not fighting. Fighting implies just stab me now, okay?
You know, if you had something stab me with, you might.
I am not that violent. I have more self-control than that. I might have thrown something at you, but...
Those you had available to you, those kind of things. But
it's a fun process.
It takes the mental thought process that you have as a writer where you feel like you're having a discussion with your character and then actually makes a discussion with the character in reality. So Caroline is even saying, well, you won't remember this when we're done having this conversation.
Yeah.
And the characters don't remember anything they talk about other than feeling of where they're going to go until the next time they talk.
Well, I think it's funny, and you might have to drop this out, but I don't think it has anything to do with the plot. Toward the beginning of the book, she's talking about, where's my knives? And after she and Rosamund and Caroline stop talking, she opens a drawer and there's the knife.
Right. Okay. Well, there'll be points where things will show up.
Yeah, it's just,
which is like, it shows some of her creative.
I really highly recommend this, even if you are a guy and it's not a chick flick book.
No, I don't feel like it. Honestly, the way I would categorize it is, yes, there's definitely a heavy romantic subplot, but it's
making fun of it.
It is. But not in such a way where it feels like it's even disrespectful of it.
No.
What it does is it kind of pokes gentle fun at when you'll have those movies where like characters will, or even those books, will let the important things around them kind of like go to the wayside while they're dealing with the romantic. How many action movies have we seen where in the middle of, we're trying to save the day, but I must give you a kiss right now.
I mean, sometimes it works, like when, in The Mummy, when Evie, when Rick gave her a kiss, because he didn't know if he'd see her again.
Right,
okay?
Right.
Because he might not come back from that.
Right.
It's the ones that, first of all, you don't even know they're involved.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this smooch in the middle. I'm like...
And sometimes it's like a long one. You're just like... People dying.
I mean, explosions.
And it felt like it was kind of gently making fun of that kind of thing that happens where, I'm going to turn this a little bit because it seems like you're slightly off screen. There we go. It kind of makes fun of that thing that kind of happens where it's like the author wants to focus on the romantic part because that's what she's interested in. And it's even mentioned that that's what her kind of like her bread and butter is for her normal writing. This was her writing is to prove to the naysayers that she could write something completely original.
Because she had done fan fiction for so long.
Right, or something that was so strongly based off of fan fiction they could kind of figure it out.
Right.
So this was her attempt to write, the character's attempt to write her own original thing. And the characters were rebelling against her. They weren't as malleable as she was used to.
They were interested in, okay, there's political things going on and there's marital things going on.
And there's family things like,
and,
I don't have time to think of your silly subplots.
Yeah, I mean, no, how long had it been dead? Not even a year yet or something, or a year. It's like, just back off. The character actually says back off, or something to that effect. And it's like, okay, you felt like they were, these were people to this author. I mean, and that's what happens when you write a lot of times.
It just put it in a more black and white kind of thing in a way that people don't, it's not like authors are literally sitting down with their characters and like having a cup of tea and arguing.
They're not?
A lot of times it ends up like you have this sort of like feeling like, no, the character doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, like the character wouldn't do that. Or like when we talk about things and she would make a suggestion or I make a suggestion and say, oh, XYZ, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. And
sometimes it takes a little bit of talking to figure out exactly what they would do because especially if you have someone who's a little bit more taciturn.
Right.
I would imagine
Right.
that a Leo, for example, who is her main male character, he's a little bit more of your silent type.
Yeah.
So
Strong silent type.
he tends to keep his thoughts to himself as much as he can, as much as the author will allow him to. And she's finding, at least at the beginning, that to be challenging. And those characters can be a bit challenging to work with because initially you think, oh, they're easy. They'll just be like, they'll do whatever. And then you find that they have a stubborn streak.
And they don't want to do what you want them to do. Or they have forcible ideas that they do want to do, and they don't let you rest until they do them. But what else do we have to say here? I wanted to show some of the formatting in this because it's divided up with little stars and X's to do the scenes. And then you have little blocks where you know that she's texting to her.
Right. No, I thought that the way that this was formatted was very nice because you pretty much knew which world you were in.
Oh, you always did.
Based off of the text, based off of the, like, you can tell when a lot of times the real world was slightly more narrow with the types because it would be harder to read the whole story like that. But for the section of Caroline, it was fine, you know, like, and it wasn't like small text. It was just more like it was tabbed in a little bit more.
The only time I found it got a little confusing is when the boss would call, and everybody who would make Caroline run around for her day job would call her other names. And then I'd get a little confused and I'd have to back up and say, okay, they're calling her
The wrong names.
They're calling her that.
Which is totally normal.
They had no respect for her.
Yeah.
They saw her as a and this is an interesting thing because the way she grows based on what she learns from Rosamond changes that. So,
well, it emphasizes something that we've found ourselves in writing is sometimes what you write bleeds over into real life. Sometimes the characters say the things that you kind of wish you could say, but would be highly rude or inappropriate to say. But because you've now written that kind of thing down, you're in a situation where you're talking to people and then that snappy response comes. You're like, I can't say that.
I can't say that. Nope, can't say
I know that character whispering in the back of my head would totally say that in this situation, but I can't say that.
And the funny thing is, it doesn't even have to be your character because I've had one of her characters, actually I've had two of her characters do
I have
that
some
in
very
my head.
distinctive character voices.
Yeah. Well, mine are a little more polite a lot of times, unless you get a certain one or two. But hers sometimes, I think maybe because you started writing them when you were a kid.
Well, I grew into them as well. And also maybe it's just a slightly different, I don't think it's a different sense of humor even. But, okay, let's put it this way. You see it a little bit in our interactions as well. It's just a slightly different way that we move. Because they weren't nearly as well developed when I started writing them younger.
No.
Well, it's growing into that.
Yeah, and I think it takes a while to grow into the characters. I'm actually impressed because I'm not sure how long this took for her because my understanding is she was doing these shorts as video shorts and they said, well, you should make a book out of this. And so I'm not sure how long it took her to go ahead and flesh this out to write the book. And it's not easy to do that with characters.
Well, and especially, I think to a certain extent, I'm not sure if it's harder when you're working by yourself or easier.
Oh, it's probably easier when you're doing it by yourself, but you still have to flesh them out. You have to give them the layers. You have to give them, and they're not one-dimensional characters.
No, that's what she did a really good job in making them have depth. It was just a really fun book to read. Very character heavy, but not so in such a way that the plot didn't matter. Because sometimes you get a character heavy book, and you'll just like, well, the plot was there, but it's kind of like ancillary. That's not the way this book
it's got a nice balance.
Like, I have a book that I'm going to be reviewing as a mystery where it almost felt like the plot was secondary.
Right.
But this book, the plot was very much front and center, but the characters what drove the thing.
I felt it was very balanced.
Yes.
And they had some nice twists. And they had some good humor in it too, which you will find
which I would not have expected otherwise for Jill. Jill's got a great sense of humor.
She does. But I didn't know what to expect from her from an author. This is definitely a fantasy, and it's just It's kind of unusual.
Well, I also like, because you have the meld between the fantasy world and the modern. How it'll age is interesting because
right. Well, it become a period piece.
Yeah,
It will become a period piece, because you'll have the references to laptops and, you know.
To give it credit, though, it doesn't do a lot of like pop culture references.
No,
it's more the technology than anything else.
I mean,
which will be better for making it have the ability to last.
Because the day job of the person involved is very technical.
Yeah.
And so she has access to laptops and cell phones and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and also it would have been odd in a modern world setting to have none of that available to your author character. It would have felt a bit off. Although
the book I'm reading right now, she consciously makes an effort not to have a whole lot of technology. She has a laptop, an old laptop, I think, to keep track of something or other, and she has a flip phone type of thing,
but still there is a level of technology,
but not much. She's off grid all the time.
There does have to be a conscious effort in a normal everyday world. For most people have a certain access, and it would have seemed abnormal for this author character not to have access. And I thought actually the way the conversations were handled between her and her editor, because you don't actually see her editor for a while.
For a long time, yeah.
But I thought the way it was handled was interesting because it was handled through notes on her on their shared document, and
texts on their phone,
on the phone, and some video calls.
Right, and then you had the one who only showed up occasionally, which was he only came at a crucial period to help her figure out Nick, and I think he was solely on the.
He was solely on
the computer.
Yeah, on the computer. I don't think there was even a phone call.
I don't think there was a phone call even, and a former coworker of hers, and so she does a really good job of blending the past and the present. You don't feel any culture shock or jolt of any kind.
And it's like, it does help make it more obvious the line delineated between the modern world and the fantasy world. If you had a setting that maybe was a little bit less tech heavy, it might have been a little bit harder to catch that blending. But because the tech was such a part of Caroline's world, because that's how she did the stuff with the story and everything like that, it kind of did help separate the two. Whereas Rosamond's world was definitely a medieval type fantasy.
Ish, yeah. I think that some of the humor comes in with there too, like when she's trying to figure out clothing. And some of the things she was trying to do, I'm like, that's decidedly not going to fit in that area.
Well, there was a point,
because
where she mentioned trousers.
Right. Well, it was meant to show the difference, I think.
Yeah. Although I do wonder, because she never mentions it again. I don't know if the character was actually wearing trousers.
No, I'm thinking of the one where she's trying to figure out the dress.
Yes, that. And I agree with you. Some of the dresses didn't seem appropriate for the time, but that made sense for that particular author character to go through her head for her dreams.
No, I'm saying that it was used humor.
Yes.
And it was used also to kind of reinforce, okay, this is where she's from. And Henry would call her on that. The editor would call her on things and say, would that happen there?
And actually, you had a very good situation where she got hurt and offended about something that he said about her. Something she did about the characters. I think it was about either consistency or something. And she had an emotional reaction. And yes.
Yep. Radio silence for a little bit. If you will.
Technically, I felt like she was creative in handling her formatting. And she was very clear about where you were. I didn't feel like you were ever lost about what was happening. And I never felt like the characters were inconsistent.
No, they were very realistic, and each character was unique. Each character had his own voice or her own voice. None of them sounded remotely the same, and she had a lot of characters.
And I also felt like she did well the strong female character.
You had a couple of them.
Yeah, because I didn't feel like any of them were trying to basically be men wearing woman faces, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
where sometimes they're almost like they feel like to make the character more manly, they almost just need to be that stoic, traditional, like Arnold Schwarzenegger type character, but make her the woman. And it kind of, I can see it like every once in a while if you have one character here and there that is their character. But when all of the strong female characters are like that, it's boring. And I thought Jill did a really great job of making her characters complex, and it didn't feel like, honestly, it didn't even feel like her strong male characters were just.
No, they all had depth of character. They had inner workings, and she did a really good job of revealing a little at a time.
And you know, I actually noticed, even though you got to see different points from different characters' point of view, she didn't head hop.
No, she didn't.
I actually was just thinking about that. She didn't commit the cardinal sin of head hopping. Because even people like Terry Brooks head hop occasionally. But she would write her section one character's point of view, you'd have a break, and then you'd go to a different character's point of view. Now, of course, the lack of communication, the communication or the lack thereof between characters was a huge plot point, so it made sense not to be head hopping as well.
Right. Well, and I was saying about the depth of the characters, you learn things a little at a time, and not always in the most pleasant manner. And there are secrets in this book. There are secrets. She doesn't have too many secrets. Well, I guess she does actually. She actually does.
Well, because we see them, it can be easy to assume that, and by she you mean Rosamund, I'm assuming. Because actually the same, Caroline and Rosamund, you see everything for basically. But it's easy to forget that even though we know everything that Caroline and Rosamund do, it doesn't mean that everyone else knows everything that Caroline and Rosamund do. And yes, sometimes even Rosamund will expose things slowly, but doesn't feel like the author's purposely hiding parts of Rosamund from us. It's just coming out when it needs to.
Not from us. It's being hidden from the other characters.
Yes.
And some of the stuff, there were a couple of interesting surprises.
Yes, there were.
I mean,
things were not on my bingo card.
No, I mean, some of them were absolutely almost like red herrings. I mean, wait a minute, what?
But I didn't feel like it was out of character when it happened.
No. I mean, and some of them I even had, okay, what if this? What if kind of thing that so could be possible, and then that was, but it wasn't like a certainty, and it wasn't obvious. It was just that. Well,
I also I love that she would drop something early on and then pick up that thread later. So things like Leo mentioning that he was okay with the sleeping situation because he's been basically in a hole where where the guy with him snored and he felt like smothering him. That came up again later.
Yes, it did, in a very fun, humorous manner.
And the same thing when you very, very first time you meet Robin, you have him mention something to the effect of he knew he was supposed to be in a different story.
Right.
And he has a feeling he would fit better there for some reason. And he had his thoughts about this other story. And it comes up again where
later
he had another story that he was yanked from. And so it was interesting.
And I think that's a fairly common thing that happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, we find that some of Mom's characters were created in a different shared story that she had for years.
And some of them are from my novel.
And some of them from the main, initially you pulled from, the plan was just to pull from her novels.
Well, her novel wasn't even remotely finished.
Oh, you mean when you're talking about the other shared story? Yeah.
What?
Because I was talking about ours.
I am.
Initially the plan was to pull from ours. And then you ended up pulling things from the other shared story, and
right. No, what I meant was that my main girl.
Oh, I didn't. I thought you were talking about the other author. I apologize. The one you're doing the other shared story with.
Oh no.
Sorry, you just said her, and I was confused.
No. Yeah, I'm kind of a veteran at shared stories, but no. But her point is well taken. That we're talking about taking characters from one story and putting in another. I think I have 2 or 3 different kinds of characters coming up from different stories.
And you kind of have in your mind, like, okay, they had this other life in this other story. Because I feel like your main female character is a very different character now than the one that she was in the other story.
Well, witness the fact that when we get to the point where my main character from my novel comes in, when I did the first shared story and he got married to somebody else, I felt like he was committing adultery.
Right.
Okay, because, it just wasn't, and he wasn't even married yet. He was just betrothed.
Right.
And so you do pull people, and it doesn't always work unless you can alter things.
Right. And so that did affect the way that...
Well, one of your characters got really upset until we changed it.
Yeah. But for this story, that affected the fact that this one character, Robin, belonged somewhere else, ended up affecting the plot to a certain extent, because this back history did not want to go away the way that Caroline thought, like she could just sort of wave it off.
Yeah, she wrote it, she can get rid of it.
Right.
With a great big author eraser.
So I enjoyed how the creative process was represented. It did it in such a way, because we've talked about this before, where a lot of times we feel like the most creative way of the writing isn't I base this off of this person, my real life, and that is who they are. Now, from what I understand, that some authors, or maybe even a lot of authors in the past, have done it that way.
You could start there.
But I feel like it's very limiting. And this here, just I mean now, represents a bit more of what I feel like the creative process is like. That inner dialogue with yourself, which is, you feel like it's with your characters, but it's actually you working out ideas, of course. But you get so absorbed in that world that it does feel real while you're writing it. And Caroline, she has that thing that I mentioned where she's like, I wouldn't actually go and say, what would my character say? But like I told you, I would be in a situation and a snappy response of when my character says, hey, would come up in the back of my head. I'd be like, well, I can't say that. For Caroline, she found herself going like, okay, what would Rosamond do? Because she put into Rosamond attributes that she admired and that she wished for herself. And I think that all writers do that to a certain extent, where you'll pour up certain parts, attributes that you are attracted to, attributes that either fascinate you, or for certain characters, that's why certain villains might come out a certain way. But I think it tells something about the author a little bit by the kind of characters they write. Now, of course, you are going to have, as time progresses, different kinds of characters. I have developed my first mentor type character. I'm not sure I could have written him when I was younger.
Right. And those are kind of one of my bread and butter ones. But like the main character of our shared story, Talia was saying, you put things in there, and she's probably got the best things that I like, that I would like, and she's only 17.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's like that makes me think of when you look at Sense and Sensibility, where people are like about the older sister Eleanor. They're like, well, she's awfully mature for 19. Well, for one thing, it was a different time. For another thing, sometimes the author ends up putting the things that they admire, or even, accidentally, or because that's what they admire, they put in their own faults, just because those attributes tend to go together. I know personally, I have to work to not write too many of the more
sarcastic.
Well, those two. But I was thinking that those actually are kind of my bread and butter, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was going to say Spock-like, because that's the other one I tend to do a lot of. Spock-like isn't even quite fair.
No, you're talking about just someone.
Probably more Batman.
No, I don't know if you want to pin it on a character.
There's certain attributes that I do. I appreciate the logical. To a certain extent, I appreciate stoicism.
I don't like stoicism. It's just.
Usually there tends to be something underlying, and it ends up. But you find the things that you respect. You find the things that you find. You pull attributes, I think, from people when you're very.
Well, it's part of the write what you know and what you what you are familiar with, either in yourself or in other people, and she does that really well here.
Right, she does. And actually, one of the things, yes, she'll find that, oh yeah, this character kind of looks like someone that I like, but is that what she pulls from the character, or is it more, I would argue, while there's aspects maybe of her crush in her main character, Leo is his own. And I'm not quite sure if she is pulling what she thinks she sees from, I think she's pulling what she thinks she sees from Henry. Also, she might be pulling some of the traditional hero attributes from her reading.
Because Henry, and I don't want to get too far into Henry, but he's not like Leo.
I don't think so. That's why I find this interesting is that
there's different, the things she is seeing similar in Henry and Leo are different than what people would think when they say, oh, you base that person on so-and-so.
Right. Partially because you see as the reader, you see the inner workings of the characters and their thoughts in a way, like Caroline will see Leo's inner workings, but she's not seeing what's going on with Henry on the other side. So she might even half think that she's putting more of Henry in there than she is. Although, like I said, I think she kind of accidentally, like she noticed it after the fact, like, oh yeah, I kind of did that. I think there's even a point where she says, oh yeah, I kind of did that.
Yeah. I can't say enough about this book. I was not, when I first saw this and first started reading it, I thought, okay, I'm going to read it and then I'm going to unhaul it. This book is staying with me. I will reread it.
It's completely clean, both in ways of situations
and language,
and
even in the violence, whatever little violence is in here, it's not graphic.
No,
it's very, if you want this, family friendly.
Yes,
I would love to hear this on a radio program.
Now, I would say, just because some of the concepts are a little bit more, as in, like, you're talking about marriage and you're talking about some of the way it's addressed might be, I would say, not young kids.
I would say that because it's not addressed, it's addressed.
I guess it would just go over their heads.
It's addressed obliquely, and I think it would be a good topic for discussion, especially along historical lines. That this is something that we don't do today, or most people don't do today. But in this time period, in this kind of a situation, in this book, this is a normal thing that happens. And it's frowned upon now, but it was considered okay then. It was okay for them to do this, even though we wouldn't think it legal or that. Right. Whatever. So,
we're not saying something that's dirty for the book. It's
no. We're just...
I just wanted to re-emphasize that because it sounds like we're obliquely talking about...
No, I'm just trying to be purposely oblique so not to give away plot points.
Yeah.
Because this has... I don't want to ruin the story for you. It's too good to be ruining the story. And I hope that we're not gushing too much because I don't want people to be disappointed. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend if you're a fantasy lover, if you love writing, if you...
I think it's particularly fun for if you do have the writing background because you find that it kind of, you go like, yeah, that happens.
Well, I think this will be fun for people who, now I don't watch Deadpool because of the language, but Deadpool or Laurel and Hardy.
Apparently, She-Hulk does a bit of that too.
Okay, where they break that, what's it called, the third wall?
Fourth wall.
Where they talk to the audience. Well, they're not talking to us, but they're talking to their audience, which is the author. So you have that kind of immediacy.
Yeah, because think about it, the fourth wall idea is you've got 4 walls and you knock down one of them, so you're looking in through that.
Right.
Looks like we're about to run out of time. I'm going to stop this to see if we can think of anything else, and then if we if we can't think of anything else, we'll restart with we'll do a outro. But
we're gonna cut this.
We need to cut this. We'll be back.
God bless.
Bye. Well, rather unexpectedly, we were able to make a second video after all that, and that's going to be a whole nother thing. It'll be on the Marlicia's Meanderings channel. That channel will be linked down below. Thank you very much for joining us for this video. Hope that it wasn't too insane for you, and that we will see you for the video on her channel. Thanks very much for joining us. God bless. See you next time.